So, here we are, streaming again. Where am I at? I have to work out the sales, which I might get to towards the end of the stream. I need to think about that. I've got most of the paintwork on the body of the ship done. I made quite a dark black across the back, which makes it stand out quite nicely. I've got the front little statue guy to paint up a little bit, and I was thinking just adding some colour to the glass at the back, and maybe the lanterns, give them some light. I've got the little mast at the front painted up. I can add some more colour to that. I've got the mast that I added black to, just to take away the it looked too plasticky. It was still quite see-through, as well as the top as well, so it had quite a dark colour of the blue bottle top, so I've covered that in black. So I've got a bit of brown wood paint to do on the mast for that, and then the main thing I'm doing for this evening, I think, will be getting this water to look more watery. So far I've gone for quite dark blues, and it's not quite coming up as blue as I want it. So I've got one of the Inco acrylic paints. When I touched on this the first time I used them, some of the metallic ones, like the copper, were a little bit sparkly, but I think that this one is baby blue. There is a metallic peacock, which I think may have that sparkle to it as well. I haven't actually opened that one yet, but because it said metallic, I think I'll stick with the lighter baby blue, and I really want to try and get this water looking more watery. So we're going to crack on and get that done, and then we'll have a look at see what we've got for the rest of that stuff. So gonna load up a little palette. So essentially, if you're just joining, the base that I've got is the underside, the lower deck of the ship, because it's hollow, and I made this so it sort of clicks on, and then it's got the waves coming around the ship in a way as it's travelling through the water. So I want to give this the same effect as one of my other pieces I did, which is sort of quite a watery and bubbly wave look to it. So I've got some of this white snow flock that I used as like the bubbles coming up around this little baby kraken in this case. So I'm going to use the same sort of idea for this water effect, and what it is I'll get it more blue first and then I'll highlight some of the high points with just a plain white, and then where it's sort of bubbling up maybe towards the edges here and around the back, is add some of the snow fog, so it sort of looks like it's bubbling up. So I really want to see if I can get this a lot, yeah, I want to sort of get a lot lighter blue so that I can, so you can really see it sort of like a watery ocean colour. So I've just been building up the darker blues to get into all of the cracks in that, but it sort of needs to come out a bit lighter, and I don't want to add too much water. I want to sort of keep the layers of colour that I've added. I just need it to be more blue, which I think going away lighter blue across the top here, it should give me that effect that I want. So I'm just sort of just brushing in the way that the ship would be moving, so that the strokes of the brush make it look like it's flowing around the ship as well, and just give it that look of movement while it's staying still. So it's taking me a bit of time to get to this point. The painting is definitely sort of for me a slower process. It's just building up layer and layer. I watched some of the other streamers with well, not streamers so much as the people making little videos on YouTube for the same sort of stuff, the terrain. Their painting looks far, I don't know, well, they've obviously been doing it longer than I have. I haven't painted a lot of stuff, and they've got their little techniques to do it nice and fast, and I'm still working on that, so bear with. So already I'm getting the colours that I'm sort of wanting on this. I want it to be more vibrant blue, and then when I hit it with the white sort of wave caps, it'll just make it pop at that a little bit more. Now I'm not trying to get all of the darker blues off that I've already painted. I sort of want to keep that in the little cracks and bits and pieces, or little dips of the wave, so that it just builds it up to make it more varying on the colour, but also sort of just going with the direction that the waves would be going, so that the direction of the ship is coming this way. The front of the ship here, pushing the water, and the water's going around the ship side of a boat. It's not one blue colour. It's all the different little angles of the waves, reflecting light in all the different directions. So you're going to have different, like anytime you look into the water, it's going to look a different blue. So I think that's a better coat than I had on previously. It was I'd used quite a lot of darker blues. So that that can dry a little bit, and then I can sort of touch these higher points with the white caps of the waves as it's pushing the water away from the front of the boat, and then add some of that white snow, like white sand, for like a bubble effect. So hopefully that will dry quite a lot lighter than I had it previously, and then I can start adding into the white to really just add some different areas of bubbles and waves coming through that. So I'll just put that to the side to dry, and then I want to hit these with something. So these are the sails. I've got two sails. One I think I'm going to stick on permanently. So it's sort of wrapped up like that. And then if I still need to find a little bit of metal, maybe for the ends of these, so that it can magnet on. So magnet in here, and this magnet's on. So what I want to do is, I've got a tray here that I'll get, so that I can glue this, because what I want it to do is have a bit of motion without moving. It needs to look like it's got some wind in the sail, so I want it sort of slightly bent as if it's catching the wind. Not that much, but a sail would have the wind pushing it forward. So I'm thinking some glue, and then lay it over with a couple of paints I'm not using to sort of give it that set look. And because I've done it on the tray, I can move the tray without getting in the way of my space. So this is just a little piece of wood with a couple of tubes on it that I found, that when I get this wet with glue, I should be able to just press it down over that, and then once I've got the shape of it, I can touch it up with some paint. So let's see if we got this. Actually, I'm not going to use that one. So I've got this is the Mod Podge and black paint, which I used to undercoat everything. And it's essentially just a white glue with some extra sealant stuff in it, and I've added some black paint. So if this will essentially undercoat this. I didn't have this idea before, so this was ideas on the fly. I thought of some type of glue, but I forgot about my undercoat Mod Podge. Plus it'll give it an undercoat that will be a bit easier to paint. I started putting white paint on this the first time around, and it hardly, I think it soaked it up too much. And what this is also doing is using up the last of my Mod Podge, which I thought the last time I needed to refresh anyway, so that's using up this and moving it on, which is good. So what this is going to do is give it the glue coat I was thinking of. So then because it's just glue, it'll peel off this tray that I've got. So I just want to weigh down the corners in a way that so that's going to glue and it's going to set and become the sail that has the wind in its sail. So, and I'll find some. I've got some those magnet sort of sheets you have for fridge magnets. You can get just sheets of flat magnet. So I'll cut some little bits of that for the corners, and then that, as well as that, and just put some magnet in there as well. And then that will stick together, and that'll be stuck to the mast, so you can have the sail up or magnet on the sail down. So I'm going to do the same with this and use this last bit of Mod Podge. Sorry, I've got to keep remembering I'm holding it too close to myself and you won't see. So essentially I've just got string on this that makes it look like some rope holding it together. And this is going to make both of these sail pieces look the same, so it's either sail up or sail down depending on what your tabletop mission is. Maybe you're in port. Obviously the base looks like it's moving through water, but you can ignore that for a little bit. So you've either got like the ship idle in the water, might still be moving forward, but sail up and then sail down, and they're, I don't know, going through the sea, escaping whatever you've got in your mission, or maybe you've got to chase it, or maybe you're chasing something. So there we go. So going to do is set, so the main sail is going to look like it's got wind in it, and then the wrapped up sail is wrapped up, and I'll put a bit of magnet material in the ends and be able to snap on and snap off the sail depending on the scenario, depending on what you're doing. So that came together a bit quicker than I realised. So we got the sails. So this is an undercoat and it's glue, so that sail with a bit of a rise to it should set and make it look like the wind's in the sail. And that one is undercoated the same, so the colouring, when I get to painting that, will look the same. And so we'll put this to one side. So we've got the ship with its mast, and I quite like the colouring I've got. I added some of the brown burnt sienna to make the wood siding a bit blend in a little bit better because it looked quite plasticky, so I undercoated it and given it that wood finish. The top panels already had some detail of wood grain in it, and I'm just got to figure out maybe a bit of colour for the windows and maybe just a little bit of colour for the lamps on the back. I'll figure that one out shortly. In terms of the mast, I wanted to add a little bit more of this burnt sienna to make it back into the sort of timber look to it. So when I did it the first time, this is a plastic tube and it looked still quite a lot like plastic. So what we'll do is just give it another coat. I did the black to make it less see-through, which worked really well. I can't see through it like I could before with the plastic, and so I just need to give it a bit of just really light brushing, maybe a little bit less, take some off, just to give it that timber look again rather than straight black. Can look a bit sort of like a dry brush, but there's no texture on this because it's a plastic tube, so I'm sort of giving it the texture with this bristles of the paintbrush. So I just want to add a little bit of colour to it so it's not that black. And to make it sort of look like the log, the timber mast that it should be. just going in the direction that I think it should be for the wooden mast. So it's not making too much of a difference. It's just taking that that jet black away, which I put on there to make it less see-through, which made it look a little bit odd before I put the black paint on there. So I'm just making sure it just looks like a timber mast again. Now, I haven't actually looked at a timber mast recently to know which way the grain of the wood would look, but this is the direction I'm going. I can picture the rings of bark, but you don't have bark on a mast. You've stripped all that away. But then you'd have the lines of however they've worked the wood, whether they've carved it up with a an axe or some type of tool to whittle it down to a mast. You have some form of tool marks on them, but still being a bit brown for wood. And maybe it's an older ship, so it's got, I've seen some of the old ships have like a dark tar that's been used to essentially patch them up or paint them to keep them from essentially waterproofing it from the sea, I would assume. Like the old decking, the tar in between to maybe waterproof it, so it's get water waves crashing over the top, it's not going directly down into the lower decks. So all it is just taking a little bit of that dark black off that I put on there to get rid of the plastic look. And just using the same direction of the brush to give it just a little bit of texture, visual texture, because you wouldn't be able to feel these little ridges. It's a clear straight plastic tube that I used for it, so the only texture on it is from putting the undercoat Mod Podge on with a thicker bristle brush, and then just adding some lines with this brush and just building it up to make it a little bit darker brown, and making it look like the wooden mast it's supposed to be. I mean, it's still going to be quite dark. And then I've got the crow's nests at the top. I think I'm just going to leave that black, sort of like a stealth ship essentially. Keep it nice and dark. Put a little bit more on here, yeah. Just building up the layers of paint just to give it the effect I want. And I mean, it's leaving sort of little streaks across it, but you'd have sort of like different panels of wood to make up that beam, so it sort of adds to the look that it would sort of have. Different different pieces of wood used to make that big flat surface. So I'm just keeping the brush strokes going the same way, and it looks more like a timber mast. I'll just go along the bottom as well. Slowly building it up. I should watch some more Bob Ross. Happy little mast. Just a happy little mast. I watched a couple of his painting episodes, make me laugh. And I still haven't picked up a brush to paint what I've watched him doing, but anyway. So there we go. Happy little mast there. Gonna leave the edges that black, I think. Although I can add a little bit of brown if I smudge this actually. Yeah, that'll be fine. Just to take the colour off there. So added so it was quite see-through on this through the paint previously, so I put black paint straight over those areas, and then I've just put the brown burnt sienna back on there just to build it back up to a wooden look. We've got some masts. The mast painted up. I've got the sails. So the sails here are going to dry. This is the Mod Podge and black paint over the sail. And I don't know if you can quite see it, but I've put something in the middle under it so it's curved, and when that dries I'm hoping it'll keep that curved shape. Then I've got the wound up or tied up sail, so that one I'm going to stick to the mast, and then it's going to have some magnets in it, so that, and some magnet on the corners of this one, so then you can have a sail with wind in it or a rolled up sail. So those are the sails, and I might leave them that colour. We'll see how that colour comes out. Nice gritty sort of colour. So they're drying. And then I've got my base, which is a much better blue than I first had it. So I was building up quite dark blues, but they were drying incredibly dark as well, so you couldn't quite tell it was water. So this is a much lighter blue, and it will dry, or it is drying a little less vibrant than I put it on, but that's fine. It's better than it was. And then we're going to add some white. So I was thinking I could start adding it now, so it sort of blends in with the blue and get it sort of mixed in. So just see if this will work. essentially this is what I'm sort of trying to emulate, the copy. So I did similar colouring, blue, or a black, a blue, and then the little caps of the waves, the white, and then a little bit of snow flock, the little white sand, with some glue up against where the bubbles would be. So I'm trying to do the same thing with this and make essentially the ship look like it's going through the water. So here's the ship. So that's going to sit on there like that. You don't really get the effect from looking right down on it, but the waves come around the bow and off the back, and that'll creates bubbles and whatnot. So we're gonna thank you very much for a like there. Thank you for joining. And seeing what I'm doing here. So we've got, just want to sort of go along the lines of the tops of the waves, where it's sort of just the top of the waves cracking over and making a bit of bubble essentially. So I wouldn't call this dry brushing. I'm just trying to line some of the tops of these waves and get it looking as if the ship is pushing through the water, creating some waves. Building it up so it gives it that impression of movement without it actually moving. So I'm just going in the same direction as the boat, trying to catch the high parts and ridges. I mean, the bubbles aren't always going to be on the ridge of the wave. They're going to crash over and bubble along as it's going. I was going to try and remember to keep my painting on the screen, and I'm just doing sort of really thick white paint, just catching these ridges. I don't want it to look too, I don't know, what do you call it, uniform, because it's the ocean. It's going to be already sort of bubbling up before the boat hits it. So I just want to add little bits where I want to really make it look like the ship's pushing it. And give it that same sort of direction. interesting to see how this sort of dries. I haven't let the glue dry completely. Where is it? So I don't know how dark it's going to be, but I'm getting, yeah, I'm liking what's happening here. So just catching the little ridges. Don't know. Try and let that catch up in the. So I've hit the front with a bit of the waves. A bit back this way. And it's been, the ship's going through the water. This is the lower deck, so that's pushing the water around and flowing back. I think I don't really need too much more white than that, to be honest. I might just do a little bit more up the very front and then let it see how this dries. The trick is knowing how much to put on and knowing when to stop, so you don't have a complete white wash. But enough to make it look realistic. And sort of catching the ridges and the so this whole area was a modelling paste that I slapped on and let dry and pushed it around. And once that dried, I undercoated it with the blues, and then only tonight I've put on the lightest of blues, and now the white on the caps. So just hitting these. I can picture like trips on the ferry across, to the South Island, and just watching out the back the wake of the ship. I suppose I could try and find a little seagull or something to stick into it, because they just hang around the wash of the ship, catching whatever they're getting churned up. And I reckon this is sort of what it looked like. So I've got the blues, the darker blues, the lighter blues on top, and the white sort of caps. And then I think the last step is going through just probably more on the, maybe a little bit down the side here, and mostly at the back, is just put in some PVA glue and some of the white sand, so it looks like it's bubbled up, made some, I suppose you call it wash, just that foamy bubble as the boat's going through the water. So that, I'm quite liking that. So we've got the direction of it sort of flowing around the ship, and then off the back as it's going. Let's rinse this. Try and give you an idea of what it looks like without getting paint everywhere. So that ship going with its, so it's hollow on the bottom, so it's got the lower deck. That clicks on there, and the way that I've modelled the modelling paste makes it look like it's pushing through the waves, and then hopefully the way that I've painted this will make it look like it's moving while it's sitting still, which on initial look is working. So I don't think I have the colours I want yet for the glass. Maybe like I can picture some of the old ships have like maybe like a greeny wine bottle glass sort of colouring, or maybe like a maroon colour, or a red wine, maybe a red wine for the glass on the back of the ship, and what would a lantern, sort of like a lantern on the back with like a yellowy orange, maybe not lemon orange, and I don't want to. So the thing I found about these metallics in this Kmart Anko paint range is the copper that I have is actually quite sparkly, so I didn't want that on my model. So I learnt very quickly that the metallic ones of this paint range are a little bit sparkly, and I don't want my ship to be sparkly. So they are a good set of paints so far, the burnt sienna and the blues that I'm using. They've got a good range of colours. Glitter fuchsia, or yeah, metallic royal purple. I haven't opened that yet, but I am thinking that might have the same metallic-y look. I might need to get a separate piece and undercoat it so that I can show you guys what it does. But it went quite literally sparkly. It started sparkling. So I'm happy with that for now. It's looking like the boat is going to be moving through that water, so I've got to let that dry. I've got my mast painted and pretty much dry. I've got a sail wound up that's drying. I'm going to put that, attach it, glue it to that, and put some magnet, that flat magnet, like fridge magnet stuff in the side, and then again a little bit of that on a sail that is catching the wind, so you should be able to just on and off. And then that's the mast and sails done. And then I really just need to figure out if I'm painting this little guy. Currently, so he's like a little dwarf statue, and he looks pretty cool. I've just undercoated him black, and he's pretty cool actually. I think all I might do is maybe the hammer, or maybe just even an emblem on the shield, or just a single colour on the shield maybe. Haven't decided that yet, and then I'll just touch up, make the anchor look a bit more anchory. And I think I'm gonna do some red wine just in here, which is the colour here I've got, just to just rub it in and not coat it, just to give it sort of like an old ship look. And then I found maybe a yellow, a couple of flicks of yellow and a couple of flicks of orange on these lanterns at the back, and that should be that. And that's looking pretty good. Let's get some of this red. Should be 7 minutes. We'll go for another 7 minutes. Get this done. So this is just paint for. These are just Pringles lids. Perfect little paint trays. And then the paint pretty much just peels off them, so you can use them for other colours once you dry it. So all I want to do here is just get some of this red into this glass panel. It's sort of quite bright, but I think a couple of coats of this, it'll darken up a bit, just to give it a little bit of something, a little bit of difference on the back. Water it down a bit. It's standing out quite a bit at the moment, but I think it'll be what I want once it dries out. Oops. Just gives a sense of, like, I don't know, old glass that wasn't exactly clear. see how the base looks once it's dry with the water effect, and see if the sails need any colouring once they're dry. And then a little bit of extra detail on the waves. It's looking pretty good at the moment. It's still all the white's not dry, but it's sort of the effect I want, which is good. And the masts I think will work quite well as well. They're dry. So the one that's going to get attached to the mast, and the one that will magnet to that one with the top corners, making it look like it's got a bit of wind in the sail. So I think that's quite a bit of progress for tonight, and I look forward to getting into the next session. And then I think next session I should be able to identify if I've got another session or if I'm complete, because there's not too many things to tick off. Alright, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch